All right, welcome to episode number 5, where Chad King and I are going to be talking about practical and high-level tactics to make you better at the game of sales.
Cool. Welcome. We are talking sales today. Probably this is got to be one of the episodes I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah.
Because we are both very, very adamant on why sales is important and removing that stigma that, being a salesperson is a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've all heard that antiquated, like car salesman-y, like that's kind of what, when people hear sales, they cringe, right? And everybody has now heard this kind of awakening to, man, sales is the path. And understanding sales as a game and how to have conversations and how to have tactical empathy and how to ask great questions and how to get somebody to arrive at a destination that you selected through asking questions, but they actually arrive there on their own, creates a seamless close, how to do discovery. I mean, we can dive into all these things because sales at the root is the act of solving problems through asking questions and providing value. And your ability, like I said, in a previous episode, your ability to make money is directly proportional to your ability to solve problems. And you will get paid in proportion to the difficulty of the problems that you solve. So the bigger problems you solve, the more money you're going to make. And you have to understand at the basics, conversations.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's being lost right now in this age of social media. And what I'm worried about most with the generations that come, I was driving here and I was taking my daughter to school, and I was at the corner and every single one of the kids had their face down on the phone with their headphones in. And there's probably 9 kids standing. Not a single one of them was having a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're all on their phones and they all have headphones in and they're living in this metaverse.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to them, shit, like this is dangerous, because having a conversation with someone, being able to approach somebody, at an event, like cold, and having an elevator pitch down and knowing what you want to say, or being able to have an agenda for a conversation, but not come off as having an agenda, and how do you be genuinely interested in what the other person is, because that genuine interest is what's going to allow you to figure out what is actually problems that they have that you might be able to solve.
Yeah.
So, God, I could go on for hours about sales, but I really want to hear from you, like, number one, how you see sales overall, and then some tips. Let's dive into like actual practical, because everybody understands, I think, why, like, sales in general, but like some practical tips on how to get better too at sales.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this as well, just diving in, because it's, like you said, if you're going to have a vehicle where you're going to do some of the things we talked about in other episodes, and that's experience success in life, right? Like, it's literally the name and the title of one of our episodes, and that is Money Matters. Well, how do we create money? If you think you're going to create a substantial amount of money and you're not selling something, then you've been misled horribly, right? And so I think it's really important that all of us understand sales, what it is, what's important, what's not. And there's a lot of tactical stuff that we can get into. And I'd love to dive in to that part. I think, you said sales is adding value, right? Sales is adding value. It's asking questions, right? Asking good, high-level questions. Sales is also listening, Chad. And what I think gets lost, because I love this topic. It's something I've done really my entire life. I've been the person who's like selling the cardboard boxes of M&Ms to like selling high ticket offers, to selling things in medical space that are multiple 6 figures, et cetera. So this is something that I've spent a lot of time working on, and it's a skill set. And I think that, again, a lot of people lose the fact that sales is asking questions and then listening.
Yeah.
Right. And like, we can talk about a lot of other stuff like body language. If people are watching this on video and they're looking at our body language, okay, can they read it?
Yeah.
Right. I know you can read it. My posture is up. My shoulders are kind of forward. I'm engaged. I'm engaged.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, I'm fucking loving this conversation.
Yep.
And you can tell it.
Yeah.
Right. So a good salesperson understands on the other side of the table, okay, Houston's engaged in this conversation. Like, I have his attention. So what am I going to do in that moment?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a high value question, and then I'm going to listen.
Yep.
Why? Because if we want to go into the tactics, and we do, I want to be able to solve this person's problem. So as I ask them a question that's high level, he's going to tell me what he needs solved. He's going to tell me the problems that he or she is having in whatever space it is.
Yeah.
Right. And so the keys to sales are like being able to listen and then solve the problem and like respond accordingly. Because, and again, most of my background in sales was in the medical space. And I saw so many people, reps, sales reps, so many times. They come into a meeting, they come into a sales call, they come into a situation where they're going to be able to pitch something, and they can't wait to talk. They can't wait, and they just vomit all this information. And it's just like, I can see.
Already lost.
Right. Like I can see the customer not becoming a customer right in front of my eyes because you just told them everything. You didn't ask a single question.
Well,
right?
and I mean, to that point, they probably gave away all the leverage that they had in the negotiation, because it's a little bit negotiations too. And we'll talk kind of how sales and negotiations sort of are parallel, right? And understanding concepts and basic negotiation tactics, which is a lot about sales, right?
Yeah.
And I think what I want to drive home that you said was asking great questions and genuinely listening and like actively listening and not having your phone out doing something else or be distracted by what's going on, or not waiting and formulating the next question in your mind. And this is the biggest problem, is people think they're listening, but in their mind, they're just waiting for the other person to stop so they can start talking. Yeah. And that's not listening. Yeah. You're just waiting for that person to stop talking.
Yeah.
And in your mind, you're just forming that rebuttal. But having the ability to ask great questions and then figure out how that person sees their problem is the biggest thing. So how does the person, and this is tactical empathy 101. So empathy is misconstrued. Sometimes people think empathy is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy couldn't be farther from that. Empathy is being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes and see how they see their problem from their perspective. Now, if you have the ability to have this sort of tactical empathy, you can now present your solution, whatever that solution may be. And we talk about selling, like it doesn't have to be a product, it could be a service, it could be anything. Yeah. So being able to present a tailored solution to that person based on their, through asking questions, you find out how they make decisions, right? You find out if they're very logical or if they're emotional, right? Either way, people make decisions based on emotion and justify them with logic, but some people make those decisions much more logically. So are they a numbers person? Does it need to make sense on paper? Or does it just really need to make sense, like emotionally? Is it going to solve a massive amount of pain for them? Yeah. Or is it going to put them into this pleasure state of like, they need this to get to this next level, and this is what this next level looks like, and this is how this next level would feel for them? Yeah. Well, then the close is easy if you know all those things. But if you just go in and throw up your solution right out of the gate, they're not going to tie it or equate it to any sort of solving of their problem.
Correct.
You haven't asked the questions.
Bingo. So it comes down to questions, right? Like you can't provide the value until you know the problem that you're there to solve. Yep. Right. And if you didn't listen, you can't deliver the solution. Right. But these are what we're talking about. These are very high level sales tactics. Yeah. Right. So let's go back for a second to something you said on your drive in this morning. You're dropping your daughter off at school, and you observed that a lot of kids were like face down, right? Yep. Like no one's really talking, no one's having conversation, no one's engaging with the other kids and all that stuff. And I think it's something that we really do need to talk about and raise awareness to, So, I've got an 11-year-old son, Hudson, and he's a little salesperson already. Yeah. Right. And so like, we need to be teaching and showing our children, not just how to sell, because not everyone's going to take, these high level paths in sales, but you're always going to be selling something. You're going to be selling yourself, right? Like he was going to try out for the middle school golf team. He just started playing golf this summer, and they took 6 kids. He was 8 out of 18 that went to try out, right? But what I told him was, go talk to the coach, engage yourself with the coach. Like I kind of knew after day 2, watching some of these other kids, like 8th graders, bomb these 280-yard drives. Like just we're not expecting. Hudson's going into 6th grade, by the way. I'm thinking this is probably not going to be his year. But I want you to go engage with the coach. I want you to talk to him. I want you to ask him questions. Hey, what can I do to be better for next year?
Yeah. What do I need to work on?
Right. Instead of doing what we are so afraid of people doing, and that's like kind of cowering away and like retreating and saying, well, I'm not going to play golf. This isn't for me. I suck at this. I'm not good, whatever. But if we have a bunch of kids that are like doing this at the bus stop, they're not engaging, they're not having conversations, they're going to lose confidence, which is also a huge part of sales, right? Like you've got to show confidence in what you're doing. But we need to be talking to our kids about this stuff early.
Yeah.
You know, we need to be talking to them about it. We need to be showing them this stuff early so that it's just natural to them.
Yeah.
Right? It's a natural progression.
Yeah.
Instead of something foreign and scary.
100%. Yeah. I teach my daughter whenever we go places, she's 18 months, she waves to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I always teach her wave, smile, you know, there's an element to like, you know, don't go let people hug you and pick you up and stuff. Right. But at the same time, like I'm naturally an introvert, right? But I can flex and be an extrovert when I have to. And I had to do that a lot. I still do. I still have to do it a lot. Like, you know, and the ability to flex and be an extrovert, maybe even if you are an introvert, and it's going to be super uncomfortable in the beginning, but then you start to realize that uncomfortable feeling that you're getting maybe before you walk into a room where you don't know anybody, or you walk up to make a connection with somebody that doesn't know you, or you pick up the phone and cold call.
Yeah.
Like that little queasy little feeling is typically a signal that you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Right. It's typically a signal to act. And too many people get that queasy feeling and they're like, oh, this is not right. I'm getting this queasy feeling. Guys, the queasy feeling is the trigger that should get you to go forward.
Yeah.
You know, and you are one connection away from a completely different life.
Always.
You are one connection away, one conversation away, one opportunity away from a completely different life. And your reservation to put yourself out there because of the fear of potentially being judged or saying something silly or, you know, that fear is just, it's holding so many people back.
Yeah.
It
imprisons people, but they just don't know, right? Like they're worried or they're scared about it. So, you know, like you said with your daughter, hey, wave to everyone. Don't go over the top, right?
Yeah.
You get yourself in trouble. But like teaching them, showing them, you know, at a young age to go do this. I literally run Hudson through exercises, right? And so he's in the 6th grade, and like last year they do like BizTown in school where it's like a simulated, it's like his own little entrepreneurial journey, right? Yeah. So like, what do we think Hudson went for? CEO. Do we think he got it? Yes. Why? Because he was confident. He wrote out a plan. Like he had a 30, 60, 90-day plan for like a UPS store or something like that. But like, what a lost art that we're not showing kids early so that they can succeed in life later on. I mean, he was going to, he wanted to start like a lawn mowing business within the neighborhood, right? So he's like, I need to go knock on doors. Yeah, you do. Well, he had like no hesitation. And so before he went though, I was like, well, what are you going to tell them? Right? Well, I don't know. Well, what are you going to ask them? Well, I don't know. Say, okay, well, why don't you go ask them if someone's mowing their lawn, right? And so you see where this is going. So then he comes up with an idea. He's going to go ask them if someone's mowing. Yes. Okay. Got it. He said, I'm going to ask them if they would be willing to let me cut it once for free to see if I can do better than the next kid. And I'm like, bingo.
That's it.
Okay. Again, he was like 8.
Yeah.
Right.
He's
so
going,
like
he's going places.
He's going places. He's going to supersede me like a million times over. But the point of like what we're doing in this episode is to try to encourage people to do that kind of stuff with your kids and with themselves. Right.
Yeah.
You've got to be good at it. You have to.
Well, and you got to lead by example. So if you're like super introverted and not willing to talk to people and you're trying to tell your kids to go out there, like it's very tough. You lead by example. Your kids follow what you do, not what you say. So, you know, having this ability to, you know, and understand basic principles of a negotiation of a conversation. So like sales at its core is just, it's that conversation, right? And then when you get into like deeper sales and you get into like negotiations, now, you know, you're talking about kind of an upper level sales aspect of it, of where now you need to be mindful of specific tactics like giving away leverage and not giving something without getting something in return, and advanced closes and advanced commitments, and getting people to like, you know, and removing objections like through a sales process. So when I was buying a lot of houses in the single family space, you know, one of the things was having this process. So when I talk about sales, it's important to have a process, because if you're just going into any sales situation and you're just shooting from the hip, you're not going to be able to measure your results. And if you can't measure your results, you can't tweak them and make them better. Yeah. So when I would go into these properties, and even now, like at the very beginning of a conversation, I like to set an agenda of what's going to take place. We did it today with this podcast. Like this is what we're going to talk about today. Yep. And too many people are going into these conversations like, you know, hey, what'd you do this weekend? Or, they start the conversation off with something like really random, and it allows the conversation to get so derailed with tangents and sidetracks that there's no real formulated agenda to it. So setting an agenda up front, hey, this is what I'd like to accomplish today. This is how I'd like this appointment to go. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about this. At the end, I'd like to ask you a few questions, get an idea for your thoughts on this, and then we can make a decision. Does that sound good? Getting the commitment that's okay. Yeah. And then going into a massive discovery process, like you said, asking a ton of questions. Yeah. This is where you should be talking 20% of the time max. And if you're talking, it should be just because you're asking your next question. Yeah. And this is where you kind of get those guided questions down to sort of have them go down the path that you'd like, because they're all targeted questions. They're not random.
Right.
So then you get this discovery process done where you're really Sherlock Holmes. Does your product or service even fit this person? Yeah. Do they even qualify for it? Because if not, you're wasting your time.
Right.
And if so, it's your duty and obligation to sell it to them.
Yeah.
It's your obligation.
Yeah.
And then what you want to do is remove objections. So this whole concept of closing, like always be closing. Well, I hate that, always be closing, because closing is something that should be super seamless when you've done the rest of the sales process correct.
Yeah.
Right? The close should not be this hard close with this handling rebuttals and objections and firing back. And if you remove all the objections up front before you even do a presentation of a solution, or before you present the offer or whatever it is, and you remove potential, time objectives, money objections, time objections, relationship objections, like is everybody who's involved in the decision even sitting here today?
Do I have the right people at the table?
Because if not, what are you doing presenting if you're sitting in front of a decision influencer and not a decision maker?
Right.
So getting all of these objections out of the way, and there's so many that can potentially get in the way of a close, getting them out of the way prior to even a presentation allows this close to be a lot more seamless. And you transition into, okay, well, this is the solution that we have from what you told me. It's during my discovery process, I know that you're having trouble with this, X, Y, Z. Well, my solution solves X in this way, Y in this way, Z in this way.
Yeah.
Right.
During your discovery process, are you by chance writing things down?
Every time.
Yeah. Bingo.
Always.
Yeah.
Always writing things down, because it's ammunition that you need to use when it does come to close, come time to close. It's ammunition that you need to reference to help with that situation. Yeah. And then, after that, you might get some closes, you might get some more objections that may need handling at that point. But you also might get, like, how do you handle like maybes and think it overs? Because those are the biggest detriment to salespeople. I remember when I was a sales manager, and I'm not a great manager of people. Like I used to manage people at Xerox, and trying to get other people to be motivated to go out and knock on doors is like, that's one of the toughest things in the world.
Yeah.
And I remember like a couple guys used to come back and they'd be like, yeah, they're going to think about it. I'm like, you're celebrating the fact that they're going to think about it. Like, you went and you spent all these hours on this proposal. You went and presented this proposal to all these people, and they said they're going to think about it. And I understand why you're excited, but I also don't, because you didn't get a yes or a no.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have a no than a think about it, because a think about it gives you a false sense of a healthy pipeline.
Bingo. Yeah. Okay. So I think we could have an entire season on sales between the two of us, because again, just it's what I know, it's what I love. And I want to, dive a lot deeper into the tactical stuff. But something you said there's like, and I still have those people. I still manage a sales force within one of my companies right now. Yeah. And I have one of those people. God bless him. He's amazing. But I call him like the land of opportunity, right? Yeah. Because it's always like, oh, well, I made this contact and this person's going to do this. And then what they could do is this. And it's like, man, that's a really long list of could be, maybe, let's forecast it and all this stuff. But like you said, you're building a pipeline. At the end of the day, you're really not sure you're going to close.
Yeah.
Right. And there's just work to be done. There's coaching to be done there, which is fine. But the point is, like, everyone's got to get good at that and master it. And then you can get into some of the high level stuff. But I really want to highlight something you said, because you didn't even realize you said it. But as you're talking about your sales process, right, and all the different deals that you've done, is you reaffirmed to your client or to your customer or to your buyer what their needs are, because you wrote it down during your process.
Yeah.
Dude, that's fucking valuable. That's high level. And a lot of people aren't doing that. So if you're listening to this or watching that, do it.
Yeah.
And then watch how your sales change. I promise you. I do it as well. But it's so huge. Like, you can't miss that if you're listening to this.
Yeah. Well, and people respond to their own language.
Yeah.
So when they use a word or a phrase, and you can grab that word or phrase, maybe you jot it down that they use this word or this phrase, and you can kind of scribble it, and then you either use that word or phrase and then formulate that into another question to gain more information, or you use it into some sort of close or something like that. Like that word or phrase, it encourages them to then be receptive because they're like, oh, I did say that. That was my word that I used. So now I have to answer and elaborate on this question. Right. But to kind of wrap up the sales aspect of it, I think at the core, we talked about this word a few times. You guys heard it, pipeline. Yeah. So sales is a pipeline. Activity at the top, results at the bottom. Now, whatever your pipeline looks like, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter what you're selling, what product, you have a pipeline. And you need to take massive action to get as many prospects into the top of that funnel, because the amount of activity you make, including cold calling, door knocking, mailers, whatever, marketing dollars, ads out, doesn't matter. There's so many methods of communication to market because it's sales and marketing. So marketing out, getting leads in, prospects in the top of the funnel equals contacts made, offers made equals proposals presented, proposal presented equals contract signed. It doesn't matter what line of business. It's a natural thing. Doesn't matter what line of business. So figure out how to get as many prospects in the top of the funnel, and then figure out how to start tweaking your skills so that you can close more of the prospects and squeeze more juice out of what's coming in. Because the biggest detriment that I see is people that have a sales problem that think they have a marketing problem. And I've consulted with a lot of companies across the country. I had a sales consulting business when I was doing one-on-one coaching, and in the sales consulting business, a lot of the issues were with the skills of the salespeople. And the salespeople always point the finger at the leads.
Yeah, of course.
That's what they do. So the leads are the problem. The leads are the problem. So then the business owner just turns the dial up on the marketing, spends more money, and realizes, and then the salespeople close some deals and they think they're, being effective. Well, you just doubled your marketing budget, but you're actually, what if you could keep the marketing budget the same and double your contracts through getting better salespeople? So
we have a lot more to talk about between the two of us on this one. So that said, let's go into the next episode.
Yeah, let's do it.